This warning from the CEO of the nation's largest automaker, General Motors, about the impact of the tariffs on the car industry.
In June 2025, a chilling message echoed from the headquarters of General Motors, America's largest automaker, and it was not one of innovation or growth. It was a warning. This warning did not come with the sound of sirens or the clamor of public protests. Instead, it arrived quietly, a silent shutdown in a single factory, then a town, and then, like dominoes falling, an entire sector began to dim. No dramatic explosions, no headline-grabbing events, just empty parking lots, shuttered gates, and paychecks that stopped coming. This isn't fiction, it's the new reality for the automotive and manufacturing industries across North America and beyond. What's happening is not the result of a lack of demand or a failure of innovation. The factories aren't closing because people stopped buying cars or tractors. They're closing because a new kind of war is being waged, one not fought with missiles or troops, but with tariffs, and the casualties are very real. In Michigan, a steel plant stands idle. Its furnaces are cold. More than 1,200 workers have been told they no longer have jobs. In Minnesota, an iron mine that was once a linchpin in America's domestic supply chain has gone dark. In Canada and Mexico, two major automotive plants, both operated by Stellantis, have frozen mid-shift, their assembly lines abandoned due to a newly imposed 25% tariff by the United States government. Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors, laid it out plainly to shareholders. These tariffs on imported vehicles and auto parts are expected to cost GM up to $5 billion this year alone, a financial blow that is already slashing earnings forecasts and leading to 900 layoffs across the US. Thousands more across the continent are being impacted as the ripples of this economic policy spread. This is not an isolated incident affecting a single corporation. What we're witnessing is a systemic shift, one that crosses borders, industries, and communities. It begins with a political decision in Washington, but its consequences are being felt on the factory floors in Ohio, the mining towns of Ontario, and the industrial centers of northern Mexico. Stellantis has confirmed indefinite production halts at two key plants, one in Canada and the other in Mexico, citing the reinstated import tariffs as the driving force. The economic calculus is simple. Continuing production under such financial strain is no longer viable, and as cross-border costs skyrocket, the only option left is to reduce output. The fallout is visible. In Windsor, Ontario, the production of the much-anticipated Charger Daytona RT line has been postponed. That move triggered a new wave of layoffs. 900 American jobs lost, effective immediately. Meanwhile, CNH Industrial, the maker of Case 1H and New Holland farm equipment, has issued layoff notices in North Dakota and Minnesota. Why? Because farmers are no longer placing orders. Not because they don't need the equipment, but because they don't know how much it will cost once tariffs inflate steel prices, transportation expenses, and duties on critical parts. The shockwaves aren't limited to North America. In Europe, the story is unfolding in much the same way. Volvo Trucks has announced 500 to 800 job cuts at its assembly and engine plants due to a steep drop in demand. Demand directly impacted by America's tariff regime. With US automakers cutting production, suppliers across the globe are watching their forecasts crash. As operating costs rise and profitability sinks, companies are scrambling to adapt. Meanwhile, workers in Germany, Italy, and France are being handed pink slips. What was once a globalized, synchronized industry is now fragmenting under the pressure of protectionist policy. Perhaps the most devastating chapter in this story belongs to Cleveland-Cliffs, a major US steel and iron ore producer. In March 2025, the company announced it would idle its blast furnaces in Dearborn, Michigan, and suspend operations at multiple mines in Minnesota. Another 1,200 jobs were lost overnight. The reason? Automakers have drastically reduced orders as tariffs make manufacturing more expensive and less predictable. Steel that once fed the bustling assembly lines of Detroit is now sitting in warehouses, unwanted. Mines that were once alive with activity now echo with silence. This isn't an economic downturn. It's not a correction. It's a political earthquake, and its aftershocks are being felt everywhere. One of the most complex and dangerous consequences of this trade war is unfolding in the rare earth market. These minerals, vital for manufacturing electric vehicles, smartphones, wind turbines, and military technology, are now caught in the crosshairs of escalating retaliation. With China controlling over 90% of the world's rare earth processing capacity, its decision to restrict exports in response to US tariffs has devastated supply chains across Europe and North America. Dozens of European auto suppliers have suspended operations, citing material shortages. Some delays are measured in weeks, others in indefinite standstills. Germany's KPA, a leading automotive supplier group, warned that without immediate policy intervention, entire factories will be forced to shut down. Ford's CFO summed it up clearly: the rare earth issue continues to be an issue. The tone may have been diplomatic, but the message is dire. The corporate response has been swift and defensive. Honda is accelerating its shift to US-based supply chains. Pharmaceutical companies like Roche and Novartis are scouting new domestic production sites. Beverage giants like Campari are moving bottling operations back to Europe. These aren't growth strategies, they're survival tactics. Diageo, GM, and Ford have all suspended financial forecasts for 2025. Share buybacks have been paused. Investments are on hold. Hiring has slowed or stopped altogether. In heavily trade-dependent industries like heavy machinery and agriculture, companies report that customers are holding back, not from disinterest, but from uncertainty. Farmers don't know what their next tractor will cost. Dealers are afraid to place orders. Manufacturers left in the dark have no choice but to lay off workers, and the longer this climate persists, the deeper the damage becomes. Analysts now estimate that the job losses tied to these trade tensions could exceed 6 million globally if retaliatory tariffs continue to escalate. That figure isn't some hypothetical worst-case scenario. It reflects what's already happening on the ground. In countless small towns across the Midwest, the very communities promised protection by tariffs are now suffering the most. Factories are going quiet. Skilled workers are being told their expertise is no longer needed, not because their industries failed, but because policy made it impossible to operate. The message is stark. Tariffs, when applied indiscriminately, don't safeguard workers. They just reassign pain, and increasingly it's the person on the factory floor who pays the price. Today, thousands of workers across the US, Canada, and Europe are facing the same brutal pattern. Factories go dark, layoffs follow, uncertainty rises, and most don't know if they'll ever be called back. In corporate boardrooms, executives speak of resilience and strategy. In political offices, leaders talk of leverage and patriotism. But in warehouses, assembly lines, and supply hubs, the reality is clear. The rules of global trade have changed, and no one seems to know what they are anymore. What's unfolding is not just an economic story, it's a human one, and it's being written in silence.